Okay, here's algebra, unit 3, day 2 notes. So today we're going to talk about domain and range on our graphs. So domain is going to stand for our x values, and range is going to stand for our y values. Okay, so first, when we used to have this, we would say, okay, this is a closed dot here, and then we have shading, and then an open dot. So we'd say x was greater than or equal to 0, or x was less than 3. It couldn't be less than or equal to because it's open circle. So we could put those together and say, put x in the middle and say less than 3, and then make sure, we're flipping these, so making sure it's opening to x still, greater than or equal to 0. Interval notation is saying that x is somewhere between 0 and 3, so I'd put 0, 3. And saying it could include 0 because it's a closed circle. Just like when I use the or equal to piece here, I would use a new symbol, a closed bracket. So that's saying or equal to. So it's including 0. And then if I'm saying it goes all the way to 3, but it doesn't include 3 because it's an open circle, then I can use a parenthesis here. So interval notation has these differences. Sometimes I use parentheses. Okay, so that's when I have these open circles. Or when I have arrows on my lines, because these arrows tell it it's going on to infinity. So, or arrows. And because I cannot define the largest number ever, then I would use a parenthesis because I don't know what the biggest number is. I use these little closed brackets here when I have a closed circle. And when it's like the side of a shape. So like the side of this shape here, I can tell this is the farthest point over here. So, and side of shape. Figure. So let's look at this. Okay, these are closed dots. Okay, if you need to kind of fill them in, you can, because these are the open ones, so those should look a little bit more closed. So I would use closed dot on the left, closed dot here, so bracket, comma, this end would be a bracket. For this one, we have an open dot on the left, so parenthesis on the left, open dot on the right, so parenthesis there. For this one, I have a closed dot on the left, so bracket, comma, goes on to forever in the right, so parenthesis, because I don't know the biggest number. Then here I have an open circle on the left, so parenthesis, because that number would not be included, just like this 3. And the furthest number to the right would be infinity, so I would do a parenthesis. Same thing here. It's going from negative infinity to positive infinity. All these numbers would be shaded in, so parenthesis, comma, parenthesis. Let's put this into practice and have it start to make a little bit more sense. So I'm writing domain and range of this function, so of this graph. So this time I'm not being given just numbers on a number line. I'm being given some kind of shape here. So first, when I find domain here, I'm thinking to myself, we're going to go left to right. So I'm going to grab a highlighter, and I'm going to show myself, okay, the furthest point to the left is right here. So I'm going to track that down to my y-axis here. And the furthest point to the right is here, and I'm going to bring it down to, sorry, this is my x-axis. We're working on our x's. So every point between these two is included because the line is continuous. So my domain is from -5 to 0. And now we look at the ends. On this -5, so -5, comma, 0. On the -5, it's an open circle. So that's when I use parentheses because that number is not included, just like this 3 up here. It was less than. So open parenthesis. And then for this point here, it's at 0. Okay, I know I see the 4 there, but what x value is it actually including? 0, because this ordered pair is 0, -4. So 0, and that's a closed dot, so I will use a bracket. Now for our range, we're looking at the y values. So we're thinking bottom to top. So because we're going smallest numbers to the highest. So I'll grab a second color. So here's my lowest number, -4. And here's my highest point. So I'm going to include every number between these. So my lowest number is -4. And my highest number is here, tracking that over to my y-axis, is 5. Well, let's see here. The -4 is a closed dot, so I'll use a bracket because it's included. And the 5 is a open dot here, so I'll use a parenthesis. Now we want to determine, is this a function? So does it pass the vertical line test? If I draw vertical lines through this, it does not hit the figure any time more than once. So yes, it's a function. The next one, B. So let's find our domain. Again, we're thinking left to right. So here, this is the furthest point to the left. So -5 all the way to here. Even though this is a closed dot, I can go all the way to the farthest part of my figure, which is here. So my domain is from -5 all the way to 3. Now we have to figure out what kind of symbol to put on each side. So for the -5, it's a closed dot, so closed bracket. Or we can call those braces. And for the 3, it's the side of the figure, so these are all like a bunch of closed dots. So remember, for a side of the figure up here, we used a closed bracket. Okay, for my range, my y's, my lowest point, so on my lowest part of the figure is right here. Okay, so I'm going to track that up until I hit the top. So that's the highest point on my shape. So our range is all the way from -3 all the way up. Here's the highest point to +3. The -3 is a closed dot, so brace. The +3 is a closed dot, so another brace. Is this a function? Well, if I did my vertical line test over here, it passes through the figure twice, so this would not be a function.